Hey guys, and welcome to this hobby tips video on how to color glaze into steel on an Adeptus Mechanicus Tech Priest Dominus. Okay, I think I said all that correctly. Yeah, so we're going to be color glazing into steel. It's something that I wanted to do for a while. I've done plenty of color glazing videos on doing it into brass, but none on steel or metal. And I had a few comments about it, so here we are. We're going to be doing it. I've also got one on blue steel, and we're going to be doing it in roughly the same way, but using a straight up metal color, which we've got on here. And I thought an Adeptus Mechanicus model would be really fun to do it on because they've got a lot of it. So it's a fun one, and a subject matter I haven't actually tried yet, at least on the channel anyway. So we've got some brass here as well on it, which goes the same way. If you'd like to see how to color glaze brass, I've got many tutorials on that. You can find them there. It's basically the same, but we'll be tackling it a little differently today because of the steel. So that's the main element that we're looking at. And so I've prepared this model. It's been black undercoated with the Cow's Black spray from Citadel, and then I've gone through with leadbelcher, which is the GW color there for the base metal, and we put that on, and some Rune Lord brass as well. So we're ready to go. So grab yourself a model and a brush, and I guess let's get started, eh? Okay, so to begin with, we start by doing the pre-shading, and the reason for that is that we want to have some values down before we put the color glazing on. So we're going to start with the Seraphim Sepia and add a little bit of Lamia Medium, 1 or 2 drops, and keep it relatively thin, as we will do with vanilla oil in a second. And we're going to just basically paint over that surface and build in some shadows. Not too much, not too heavy, but just a light directional wash over the area to start building in those shadows, and then coming in with the vanilla oil, which you'll see me do in a second, and go over that as well, so that we get a sort of browny black shadow going on that steel, on that leadbelcher, so that we have something to work with. And that's really important, because if you don't have any of that shading, as I said, the color glazes won't do much. If you ever had a photo on your phone and you put a filter over it, it works best if there's values there. If it was all black or all white, you would get very little change with that filter, but with all of those values there, you see a difference. So that's the really important part of this. So we've got that nice shading down, and once that's dry, then we move into the pre-highlight stage. So we're going to use the Stormhost Silver and a wedge-shaped brush. So just something that's got a flat side to it. So what we're really doing here is a kind of highlighting step, just like you would with a small detail brush, but instead we're using a dry brush, and we're just very carefully dry brushing over the surface, hitting those edges to create a soft highlight and basically buff the surface. And that's going to give us our full range of lights and darks for the color glazing step, which we're going to start in a second. And that will be with the blue shade, so the Drakenhof Nightshade. And so we're going to mix Lamia Medium, this time 3 or 4 drops of that Lamia Medium in, that you'll see me do, and just basically directionally paint that in. And we're thinking about gradients of shadow and color. So we're not just washing it now over the surface. Now it's a more filtered, I guess, process, and we're trying to just see where we can get some of that color happening into the shadows, into the cracks obviously, but across some of those flat areas as well. So we want to see just a light blue tint going on all over the metal area, and you can put it on the brass as well, wherever you deem necessary, but it's mostly over those I guess steel areas. But yeah, if you've got brass, then do that as well. And then once that's done and dry, we move into the purple glaze. Now with this, we're going to do less of the area now. We're going to be just picking out some key spots where we want to see a little bit of a tint of that purple, and just to shift it away from the blue and give us another tone, almost like a light lavender color that's going to just hit some of that silver area and give us a difference. And so you'll just go around and place that in, again thinking about gradients of color, thinking about shadows that have a little bit of purple in them, and moving around like that, and you'll end up with something really nice. And then finally, we're going to add a little bit of the red shade as well. Now with the red, if you wanted to do more of a like a blue silverish steel, then you wouldn't bother with the red, but here we're going to do it today because I've got the brass, so that's fine. So we're going to move in and start to add add a little bit of red into some of those areas. Again, very directional, lots of Lamia medium mixed in, very thin, and just placing it in where you think that it's going to look cool. And mostly for me on this one, it's around the brass areas and any silver that's connected to that brass. So we're adding a little bit of red tint here just to tie it all together with the red that's in that brass. And so you'll end up with, you know, a very harmonious group of colors that are in those shadows, and it starts to look really rich and vibrant, which is really nice, but a little dull. So the final stage here is to come in with our silver again and do a fine line highlight this time. So much like with the directional dry brush, where you're hitting the flat edge of that dry brush across the edges of the model, now we're doing it with a fine detail brush. And you're going to see me come in and very carefully with a fine detail brush and just hit those main lines. Now, because we've done that pre-highlight step, we don't have to do every single edge. We're just doing all of the main lines that are on the top surfaces of all of those armor plates and weapons and so on. Just the main areas that you see, those big edges, and you'll just see me lining that in and building the brightness back to this, because once you've done all this color glazing, it's going to dull down quite a lot, the metal, and so you want to just bring back some of that shine. So as you turn the model around, you get those glints of light hitting it as the model turns and the light hits it, and that's where this whole process comes alive. Without this line edge highlight step, it ends up being quite dull, so you want to make sure you pay attention to that. And there we have it, color glazing into steel on a Adeptus Mechanicus Tech Priest Dominus. Let's take a look and see how it looks. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, right? Like, just playing around with those colors. It's a great entry point into understanding color theory and, you know, seeing how you can vary up your process than just, let's say, Null and Oil or Agrax Earthshade or whatever. This way you're sort of starting to learn about how colors interact with one another and how you can start to use it in a very non-destructive way. It's a very subtle way to use color, but you get into it, and through this process you can then build on top of that knowledge and start to be more adventurous with your colors and so on, like you can see here, moving from a blue into a red and things like that. But the initial stages of learning are to find a way in, and I feel like this color glazing with these shades into metallics is a great way to understand about color in a really easy and I guess soft way to get into it. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I'll leave a nice picture of him at the end so you can see what he looks like all painted up nicely. So that's really cool, and the paint list and so on. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it. Please hit that like button, subscribe button. It really helps me out, and I guess I'll catch you on the next one.